Back to the Bomas of Kenya, our senior reporter Rita Tinina is now joining us live for updates on some of the activities that are currently ongoing there at the National Tallying Center. Rita, good afternoon.
A very good afternoon to you, Akisa. In the last one, a lot of activity here at the Bomas of Kenya. Yes, the NASA flag bearer Raila Odinga is here. Deputy President William Ruto is also here. Earlier on, the AIBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati held a very brief press briefing, and he said he was going into a meeting with chief party agents. So right now here at the Bomas of Kenya, most of the presidential candidates are actually, as I mentioned, Raila Odinga is here. Ekuru Aukot is here, Japheth Kavinga is here, Cyrus Jirongo is here, Michael Wainaina is here as well. The IEBC has promised that at 2:30 p.m. they will be giving another briefing. In the last briefing, the situation was that only 17 Form 34Bs were yet to be availed here. That means that out of the 290 constituencies, 273 constituencies had already availed their Form 34Bs. And so by this evening, we are expecting that the IEBC will be making that big announcement, that final announcement on who has won the general election this year. And all indication, Akisa, as we have been reporting for a few hours now, that President Uhuru Kenyatta will be coming here. Security here at the Bomas of Kenya in the last few days has been tight, but it has been heightened in the last several hours. Sniffer dogs, dozens of security officers, dozens of GSU personnel in full riot gear. Along the fence here at the Bomas of Kenya, several water lorry cannons are there. We've seen horses, the ones that GSU officers use, are also here. A while back, when the IEBC was making that press briefing shortly after midday, everyone rushed into the auditorium, perhaps thinking that the IEBC would be making that final announcement. And one interesting thing is that many leaders are here, Jubilee especially, members of parliament, senators are here, cabinet secretaries, we've seen several of them, the head of civil service is also here, religious leaders are here, foreign envoys are also here. And once everyone went inside, many of these dignitaries are accompanied by bodyguards, but no bodyguard was allowed into the auditorium. Perhaps the issue of security, many of them carry guns, and maybe it is just a security measure in case the IEBC was to make a very important announcement, which would not have gone well with some. So we are waiting for that IEBC press briefing at 2:30. If it happens at 2:30, the IEBC previously has been promising to give briefings, but it has never kept its word. If it says a briefing in 3 hours, it perhaps gives one after 5 hours. Yesterday, it was to give a briefing at 6 p.m. That didn't happen at that time. It also gave a press briefing at 9 p.m., said it would give one at 6 a.m. this morning. That only happened after 12 p.m. This afternoon. So we are waiting for that. We are also told, some of our sources are telling us, that NASA agents have been able to raise several concerns. One of them among them, and they say that there are some results that are coming from polling stations that have not been gazetted. They are saying that some forms have not been signed. They are also saying that some numbers, there are discrepancies in some of the figures that are reflected on the Form 34As and those that the IEBC has been streaming here at the auditorium at the National Tallying Center, as well as what is appearing in their web portal. Remember, NASA raised concerns about the fact that the IEBC was streaming in results, and it said that those results that were being streamed in were not being accompanied, as is required by law, by the forms from the polling stations. There are 40,883 polling stations across the country, and those polling stations then would have availed 40,883 Form 34As, which would have been collated at the constituency level, the 290 constituencies, which then were required to bring their forms here at the National Tallying Center, and those then would have been collated to Form 34C that the IEBC will then use to announce the final, the winner of the presidential election. Here we are waiting. We will see whether the IEBC at the briefing at 2:30 will make that final announcement, but we are expecting that President Uhuru Kenyatta will be coming here later on in the afternoon. We understand he will be making an acceptance speech from here. Another area outside the auditorium has been set up, and that is where we understand that he will be making a speech. Akisa.
Since the results tallying began, we have been told that we are waiting for this Form 34As and Bs to arrive at the Bomas of Kenya, to be transmitted to the Bomas of Kenya. Where exactly are these forms coming from? The 17 that are remaining, where are they from, and why has it taken this long?
Well, the IEBC is not explaining why it has taken so long for those forms to get here compared to how perhaps they got the voting materials to the constituencies just the day before the elections. But they are saying perhaps the counting process, the collation process from the polling centers in the constituencies may have ensured that the forms do not get here on time. But the 17 that are remaining, just like the 273 that have already arrived here from the constituencies, returning officers. The returning officers had been given yesterday. The IEBC chairman gave returning officers up to midday today to ensure that their forms are here. So it's past midday. We are waiting for those 17 forms. During the last briefing at around 12 p.m., that is when he said the 17 returning officers were to avail their forms. But everyone, there is anticipation here, there is anxiety here. All indications are that the IEBC will be making an announcement this afternoon. The presidential candidates, the IEBC this morning wrote to the presidential candidates, are inviting them to this meeting here at the National Tallying Center. It is in a different room, that room just in front of me there, but the VIP room where Deputy President William Ruto is just behind me there. So Ruto is not in that meeting. The IEBC also has a meeting with party chief agents aside from the presidential candidates who are attending the meeting with the IEBC. Remember yesterday, the NASA coalition raised concerns. It demanded that the IEBC should announce Raila Odinga as the winner of the presidential election. It has made claims of hacking. It says that it has its own printouts from the database that put Raila Odinga ahead of Uhuru Kenyatta. In that, according to the documents by NASA, they say Raila Odinga is ahead, is past the 8 million mark, while Uhuru Kenyatta has 7.7 million votes. And so the IEBC yesterday replied to that letter by NASA, and it says the claims made by NASA, there are various errors. It says, for instance, the printout by NASA indicated that registered voters in the country were 19,101,000, while there are 19,611,000 rather. The document by NASA claiming that there are 19,601,000, while there are 19,611,000 voters around the country. They raised the issue of certain counties like Siaya, where the IEBC says the figures that were given by NASA exceeded the number of registered voters in that county. There is the issue of Nyamira County, where the IEBC says NASA had given figures which correspond to the number of voters in Nairobi County, 2.4 million, the highest number in the country. So the IEBC basically dismissing those claims by NASA. It also pointed out the fact that the printout by NASA had been generated from a Microsoft SQL database, while it says it runs its system on an Oracle database. So we are not sure whether the NASA presidential flag bearer and top NASA leaders will be responding to that letter by the IEBC, but the IEBC responded to the letter by NASA that was raising several concerns. Akisa.
Forms 34A and 34B have been the basis of all these allegations and speculation being made. And for the past, say, 2 days and nights, all the agents have been going through these particular forms as they come in from the constituency tallying centers and polling stations. What are the agents saying?
Well, the agents who have been here since Tuesday night, very few of them were here. On Wednesday, after NASA raised the concerns of Form 34As and 34Bs, the IEBC set up a desk here where the agents can be able to verify the forms that are coming in. And several agents have been spending the nights here, their days here, going through that process. But many of them, when we try to engage them, will not tell us much. They say their job is sort of just clerical to try and establish where there are any discrepancies, and the information that they give to their party leaders, we should wait for the party leaders to give the official communication on the issues that they have found with their verification exercise. But so far, even yesterday, the IEBC, in its reply letter to NASA, saying that the IEBC had not given any Form 34As or 34Bs that it says, look, our agents on the ground, this is what they have in the forms and this is what you are relaying here at the National Tallying Center. So far, out of the 40,883 polling stations, which means the same number of Form 34As should be here, the last time we checked, only less than 300 are yet to go. But the IEBC also indicating not all the candidates' results will come through the database here at the IEBC. They say some of the candidates, though the polling centers are 40,883, some of the candidates, those who were not included in the KM system since they had various controversies arising from the nominations. They were not captured by the time the deadline for candidates to be registered by the IEBC system. Their results will not be coming in through the system. So those that are remaining perhaps are some of those whose candidates' results will not be coming through the system. Mainly of them for Member of County Assembly, we have been able to see 21 of them for the Member of County Assembly position. Akisa.
Well, you've mentioned that the IEBC had called in all the presidential candidates there for a meeting, but we also know that the Deputy President, William Ruto, is there, Kalonzo Musyoka, Moses Wetangula, Musalia Mudavadi. What are all these people doing there at the Bomas of Kenya? What do we expect to see?
Well, I guess the IEBC has issues to raise with the presidential candidates. NASA, for instance, as I mentioned, we are told they will be raising those issues with the IEBC about having results from polling centers which were not gazetted, having forms that have not been signed. So that is a separate meeting between the IEBC and the presidential candidates. The other separate meeting that is going on here is between the IEBC and party agents. I guess that will be just to go through the verification process. As I mentioned, 273 Form 34Bs are already here. We understand the process of verifying those is already almost complete, despite the concerns we understand that NASA has. So those are two meetings. The other venue here where I mentioned Deputy President William Ruto is meeting. He is there basically with Cabinet Secretaries. Najib Balala is here, Rachel Omamo, Amina Mohammed, Fred Matiang'i, they are also here, the head of public service. I've seen other leaders like Aden Duale, Mike Sonko, some of those even who have lost in the just concluded elections, or rather who seem like they will be on their way to losing in the elections, are also here. Many of them are in the meeting with the Deputy President, William Ruto, at that VIP room behind me. So those ones are not having any meeting with the IEBC. So the agenda here perhaps is just like for many of those who are expecting that the President, Uhuru Kenyatta, will be arriving here sometime this afternoon. Earlier on, we saw even his seat, his carpet, his presidential strategic communication unit with his communication equipment arrive here. throughout the few days that we have been here since Tuesday. The security has been tight. We have been even having sniffer dogs coming through our broadcast equipment. But today, for those of us who've been covering the president, we know those sniffer dogs that are specifically for the president. We have seen them here. In the parking area, there are horses. We've seen about 20 of them that accompany the GSU officers. GSU officers have also arrived here in several lorries. I mentioned there are those water cannon lorries also parked at the fence along Langata Road, the boundary between the Bomas of Kenya compound and Langata Road. Akisa.
Thank you for that update. Our senior reporter, Rita Tinina, will constantly be going back to the Bomas of Kenya, where all eyes are at this